Welcome back to the CHF Overtime Podcast. As always, my name is Jordan DeLuciano for the first of 3 interviews today. So kicking it off today will be the Atlantic Coast Collegiate Hockey League Commissioner and second time on the show, Andy Musto. Welcome back to the Overtime Podcast.
Jordan, thanks so much for having me. Always good to talk to you, buddy.
No problem. Good. Same way. Same. Likewise. So before we get into the season, like always, I like to talk to some of the commissioners about the past Fed Cup. The Atlantic Coast League, the upset of the tournament. Going back to that in March was CNU knocking off Tampa in that overtime game. I believe it was 3-2 or maybe 4-3. Score is blanking me, but they win their pool. They knock off number 1 Tampa. How are you feeling after that game? How do you feel about the whole Fed Cup experience overall?
I was actually watching that game with John LaRochester, who's the director of hockey ops for the CHF, and we were kind of, when it was going into overtime, we were kind of looking at each other, and I actually. All honesty, I looked at him and I said, well, CNU had a great run forcing them to overtime. It's done. We're not going to beat them. But he kind of looked at me and went, you never know. CNU looks good today. And sure enough, they scored that goal. And we just kind of looked at each other and just let out this kind of yell like, oh my gosh, what just happened? It was an incredible overtime. And the way that goal was scored, which kind of, he wrapped it around and shot it from the face-off dot to beat the goalie. It was incredible. CNU, in fact, I just went to their opening game against College of Charleston a couple weeks ago, and they're still pumped up about that. They're still, they felt like the belle of the ball at that time. Of course, the next day they had to play, I think it was Alabama, and they had nothing left.
It was against Ramapo, and I called them. I feel like the same happened with the Bonaventure team. They gave it their all against Farmingdale and really took it to them. And then, like CNU, I feel like they just had nothing. They expended it all the day before because Bonaventure and CNU both had an early game that Monday. So they went from Sunday night all out to Monday morning. You're playing a fresh team. And then their goalie, is it the same goalie, Ryan Vanesco? He was in net for the Tampa game, and he was playing hurt the Monday game in the quarterfinals. Is he still the goaltender at CNU?
Yes. Okay. Yes. But I told them, I said, guys, your championship game was that game against Tampa. It really was for you guys, to beat the number 1 team. I mean, that's your championship without winning a championship. How can you say it's not?
That tournament was full of surprises.
It was a great tournament.
It was like the top 6 went out, and that was the biggest one. Number 1 seed going down Tampa, who kind of just steamrolled the whole regular season.
Yeah.
So this weekend you got some games going on in the Atlantic Coast League, and also you have, speaking of down south, some College Hockey South teams coming up this weekend to play you guys.
Yeah, College Hockey South and us have really kind of forged an alliance, if you will, about playing each other. It's kind of like the Empire and the UNYCHL because of proximity. We have games that we have certain teams that like to play other teams. You've got the South Carolina group because you've got Charleston in us in our D2 CHF and Citadel in our D3, and they're close to South Carolina and Clemson and those teams. So we really enjoy the kind of rivalry that we have with those guys. It's a lot of fun to play those teams, and they're kind of in your backyard. You almost wish some of these teams would come over to ACC, but it's fun to have that kind of back and forth with, because I'm friends with the CHS leadership, so we always have friendly stuff going on the side and stuff. It's kind of a great thing.
So any games this weekend or down the line that you're looking forward, maybe not in conference matchup, but maybe out of conference matchup, again, not this weekend, but maybe down the line?
Down the line, I was looking at a couple of games. Liberty, who is one of our top teams, really is one of our top teams, is playing Delaware on the 27th and 28th of January. Mm-hmm. That's a real measuring stick for Liberty. Delaware, we know, has a great program. They've always been tough. This weekend, you got Clemson and College of Charleston. College of Charleston has really surprised a few teams. I'll get into that a little bit later, but High Point is playing out of their league against UNC this weekend. College of Charleston is 2 against Clemson. Also, High Point travels down to Tennessee and Clemson in December. So those are a couple of big games. Catholic playing Salisbury. Catholic's one of our new teams. We got 3 new teams this year. Actually, 2 new teams and 1 that moved up this year. So you've got Catholic playing Salisbury in November, which is going to be a good game.
Oh, nice. And you mentioned that Tennessee team. Actually, I believe they had a huge up. They knocked off Georgia like 6-0. I think last weekend or 2 weeks ago. Yeah, that was. So I was speaking to the first interview of the year a couple of weeks ago. I was talking to the CHS Commissioner Kyle Nell, and he mentioned he played for Tennessee, and one of the teams to look out for was Tennessee. So far, he hit the nail on the head with them knocking off Georgia 6-0 right off the bat. But you mentioned one of the new teams, Catholic. Any other new teams that are now in your conference or teams that moved up from the D3 rank?
Yeah, we actually absorbed Catholic, Rowan, and Appalachian State moved up from our lower to our upper. And so far they played Elon recently and did very well against Elon, beat them. Rowan is a strong program. They're a great program. And Catholic, it just didn't work out in the DVCHC. I contacted the DVCHC and asked them if it was okay for me to talk to them. They gave me their blessing because it just makes sense from where their location is to play, around us with Maryland and Catholic's up in DC.
Gotcha.
So you've got Maryland, you've got Navy, you've got all these teams right there that it just made sense. Catholic's a new team. Their coach Will Johnson's a great guy. So we're excited to have those 3 teams, and you never know what holds in the future. We don't know. We may have an independent team or 2 coming over this year to our D3 because we changed this year. We decided, in keeping with the CHF calling all their teams D2, and rightfully so. We had ours split up into D2 and then D3 upper and D3 lower.
Gotcha.
And the D3 upper was our CHF team. And I said, we got to stop calling it that. They're D2. So we're going to call them the D2 CHF, and then D3 was our D3 lower last year, owns D3 itself. So we might have a couple teams coming over to our D3 this year to kind of gauge how they are.
Gotcha.
I can't say who yet, but you'll be the first to know as soon as I can tell or can say if that's going to happen or not. Yeah. But like I said, we got those 2 new teams and App State moving up. We're in real good shape this year. I'm real comfortable and real happy with what's going on in the ACC.
Nice. So again, I'm speaking with the Atlantic Coast Collegiate Hockey League Commissioner Andy Musto. Last year, the winners of the league was Coastal Carolina. They did not make an appearance at the Fed Cup. So going into the season, do you like Coastal Carolina's chance to repeat? Are they looking strong early on? How do you like that Coastal Carolina team?
Well, Coastal's always going to be there. They're just a good program. They're well coached. Their head coach is phenomenal. Grant Williams is a great coach. But there are other teams that could compete this year. Liberty is always right there with them. You got High Point, who looks really good this year, and College of Charleston. Let me tell you about these guys. These guys just went in this past a couple weekends ago. I went to the opening night game for Christopher Newport, who's another possible contender, because I moved them down to the south to accommodate these north teams. So you've got a dog-eat-dog division in our south division, and they went. College Charleston went to play Christopher Newport. They beat them 7-2 on the first night at Christopher Newport's home rink. The next night they lost 11-8, and then College of Charleston went and played South Carolina. In South Carolina, who's a powerhouse in the CHF, and lost 3-1. The thing is, Jordan, they did this with 12 skaters.
Oh wow, yeah.
The whole game, all 3 games.
Semifinals last year.
Yeah. Because of the college rush, the pledging for the frats. They only have 12 guys. They're going to have a regular roster once the rush thing gets done. But these guys did this stuff with 12 skaters. I can only imagine what they can do if they have a full squad coming up.
Wow.
So they're going to be a team to watch this year. I guarantee it.
They were they're showing at the Fed Cup. Was like, I believe they were in the division with, I think, Babson and Liberty.
Yeah, they were in a real tough division. Yeah.
I forgot the other team, that Babson pool. Yeah. I don't think it worked out well for Charleston, but hey, start for them so far.
No. I mean, they were happy to go. They didn't have the greatest record. going in, but they played a lot of tough competition outside the CHF that hurt them in that record, in their record. But they are they're a great coach team. Steve Barton does a great job with those guys, and also they've got this tenacity about them. When I was watching that game against CMU, they had this tenacity, this never say die attitude. And I mean, they looked as fresh in the third period as they did in the first, and they only had 12 skaters. So I mean, they were checking and throwing the body around and making plays and keeping the pressure on all three periods. So if he can keep this thing going, they're going to shock a lot of teams who are going to take them extremely lightly this year. And I'm telling you right now, don't.
It's tough enough to play with 12 guys in a men's league game, let alone a college hockey game.
Exactly.
Against one of the better teams in the whole entire CHF. Because like I said, South Carolina went to the quarterfinals and lost by 1 goal in overtime to Babson. So you got very early on, you got your conference taking on some teams in the South. How much do you think that's going to help and affect your teams in your conference, getting that experience and getting their feet wet with teams outside of their comfort zone? Not really outside of their comfort zone, just really outside of their conference.
I think anytime you play out of conference, it helps you. It helps you, first of all, bond on the team if you're traveling on the road. I believe that you're picking teams, and almost all the teams we've scheduled are top 15, top 20 teams that were in the rankings last year. So they're good competition. You want to play up. I mean, a lot of teams are kind of beholden to the rankings. They're only going to play teams that are going to help them in the rankings. They're only going to play teams that, that they don't want to play any good, the wins and the losses and all that other stuff. You got to play in order to improve. You got to play better competition. You just have to. Mm-hmm. I told our guys that at the meeting on our end of the year meeting last year. You guys gotta you gotta have to play the tougher competition. You're gonna have to step out and not worry about going 11-1. And you're gonna have to go out and play those tougher teams just for your own benefit, to grow as a program. When I coached, I always liked to play the hard teams. I didn't care if we got beat 15-1. At least we played the game. So I think this definitely helps. I would like to see more, us playing Empire, us playing the U. We're working out some stuff with John Marchese in the U, and trying to get something going on for next season. Maybe a showcase at the beginning of the season or something. So we're working on things like that as we're expanding and we're growing. We're reaching out to these other leagues and trying to get some, having some interleague rivalries is always good.
Yeah.
You meet in the CHF finals and you just say, hey, remember that game we had back there? That rivalry starts to build.
Mm-hmm. The only way you get better is by playing better competition. If you're playing the same or lesser, you're kind of just going to stay on that line.
Absolutely.
You want to, yeah. Lastly, where do you see the Atlantic Coast Hockey League going in the future? Maybe any future tournaments? That's something in mind, or maybe expansion wise that you can divulge now, like maybe if things are behind closed doors, let's leave them behind closed doors. But anything you can disclose now, yeah.
The ACC, Mike Wally is just a great guy. He's incredibly knowledgeable about the sport of hockey. He really does care about the kids, about the guys playing the game. I run the league like a family. I never do anything without consulting with every one of my coaches first before I do any major changes or even bring anything up. I see us growing every year. We don't need to grow by 20 teams in 1 year. That's not what we're about. A couple of teams here and there. Let the teams talk for you. The teams are the ones who are going to get these other teams to come. It's not going to be me. It's not going to be Mike Wally. It's not going to be anybody. It's teams that say, hey, we love playing in the ACC. I think that you guys would be a great fit over here. We play you all the time, and you're over here and we're over here. You ought to come over here. It's word of mouth from the teams that are playing. That's the most important thing. And I can see us expanding, 2, 3, 4 more teams next year. We've already broken up into a premier D2 division. And then we have a regular D2 division. We have our D2 CHF division. We have a D3 division and now a women's division. So we've got, 3, 4 levels of hockey, which a lot of leagues don't have. They just don't have the teams to do it.
Yeah.
That they wouldn't if they could. I know the Empire would if they could. They're fantastic. And the U is kind of doing it right now. you know, and they're in great hands with John. We just have to have the teams right now that we can do this, and we can offer that to people. We can kind of put them where we think they should be, you know, put them here 1 year, and then if it doesn't work, we just move them, you know, and they're pretty open to that. So I think all in all, the ACC is very sound. We're very happy. We're very content with where we are, and hopefully we can make some noise in the CHF this year. We really, really hope that happens.
Well, Andy, good stuff. I want to thank you as always for popping on again. Definitely will chat throughout the season. Probably run into you at maybe a tournament down the line. So again, thank you, Andy Musto. Keep in tune because I'll be back later at 4:20 Eastern Standard Time, depending on wherever you're listening, to talk to the director of hockey ops as well as the commissioner of the Empire Conference, John Rochester. Check out these videos on Twitter, the videos as well as YouTube. And if you want to just listen to the audio, check out our account on Simplecast, Collegiate Hockey Federation on Simplecast. You can check the tweets when I post them out on Twitter for just the audio. So once again, Andy Musto alongside myself, Jordan DeLuciano. We will see you all later. Andy, thank you again.
Thanks, Jordan.